All right, it is April 3rd, 2024, and we are finishing up our repairs to the upper tower box and trusses here at the Bell Hill Church in Otisfield, Maine. And we just wanted to give a little tour before we go on our merry way. It's 1839. It's in the spot where the original meeting house for the town of Otisfield was built, and which fell into disrepair. And actually, roof system then got transported down the hill, and the Congregationals built this church in 1839. And as you can tell, it's very substantial, proportionally very nice. Just a classic Maine church. So let's come in. Yeah, we're trying. We got a peanut gallery here too. What more can you ask for? So as you can see, bell rope here, and as you would enter, you could either go either way up to the balcony or straight through. Each box queue, families would reserve theirs. You can see that some of the numbering is really one of my favorite parts of this building. It just lights up, and gives it the personality. And we love the thin coats of paint that this place has. You can see a lot of the plane marks. Depending on the light, it's just very much captured in this kind of original state. And as you can see, we have a rig here where we have our staging, which was set on cribbing in the basement. It then goes up, and we made it a rig going from the top of the staging up through to hold our tie beam as it came across. So why it's still up is because we have everything engaged up there, but we want to let the wood dry for a year or so in what is essentially a kiln up there in the summer, to make sure that everything dries straight without a lot of checking and that sort of thing. So let's go up to the balcony. So I love this. It's just this big horizontal paneling that, is mostly used in kind of utilitarian spaces back then, but, it's especially fun nowadays. I mean, people love their wide boards. Let's see, another spot you can see really nice is this kind of crude planing right there of that piece. It is a balcony, and I just kind of had to get it done. And this window is another one of my favorite details that you see in a lot of churches, where you have a window kind of part of a stairway. And people would say, they wouldn't put a window in the stairway. It's like, yeah, they would, because they wanted the outside to look good. And they wanted to be able to walk up here. And guess what? They weren't afraid of people crashing through windows, because most people were confident back then. Alright, so as you can see, our rig here, it's, it took a little flex, but it's holding strong, and we were able to just cut these two small holes in the plaster and install our tie beam from the attic instead of essentially having to tear this ceiling down and install the tie beam from underneath. So we're really happy with the fact that we were able to make it work and preserve this wonderful plaster job that is fairly recent. It's by a master plasterer here in southern Maine named Peter Lord, who has been through a lot of these places, and you'd never know he was there. So here's our fat-free staircase. Let's look in it again. All right, so the first part of the project is kind of in terms of our initial rig was this tie beam here that ran under our tower post. So if you remember from the outside, we have tower posts that make the outside of the tower, and then above that are the posts that become the framing for the belfry. So what was happening is water was traveling down this post and created rot in the tie beam fairly early. This place has seen water pretty much since it was built. I think only because it's so windy and sunny here that it was even able to get this far. So so that was like the most critical part, was this piece here that basically ties the tension from the walls together and kind of completes this truss that then becomes the tower blocks. So what we had to do was lift these tower posts from inside. That's the holes inside the staging is cut through, basically to drive a rig through and hold these posts, while through that back window we were able to then bring in this beam, bring it into this corner here, and then slide it back around this post into there and then in. And as you can see, guys did great jobs on the scarves. They're nice and tight. It's they're both pinned, wedged, and a tension scarf. And a real advantage that it has as well is that brace that goes from the bottom of the old tie beam into the post. That really helps kind of support that bottom. But the other thing we did, because it didn't have it initially, was we installed bed timbers to further spread this load. So instead of the point load from the post coming straight down onto our tie beam, we installed a 28-foot 10x10 that runs from the third truss across the second truss, across the first truss, all the way to our first wall, where it's shimmed and blocked there. So thus, any deflection that would happen in the tie beam would have to first go through this bed timber first, and it would have to bend it enough as it's sending weight to others. So it's a great way to kind of share this tower weight instead of this one spot having to share all of it. Now, especially since it's been scarfed and it's not quite as strong as it would have been if it was a continuous piece. So, but once we got these bed timbers in, all of a sudden, it wasn't even part of the plan. We saw an opportunity to run joists across and build basically a new deck here that then we can enter the next phase of our job, which was the tower box repair. So here, Wes, let's concentrate on this one here. So this area, this post is a great kind of shows what's going on here. As I said, this building took a lot of water, and the places that didn't dry out were a lot of the mortises. So you have these mortises that these braces, braces with 8-foot legs that go into the posts that then would basically catch water as it was running down and get it into the center of the timber, and then created the center rot problem. And then it had another mortise that then it would find in these bed timbers, also create this center rot. So there's no surprise that I should say it makes sense that these belfry posts with the brace mortises were actually seeing quite a bit of rot. And these bed timbers that were holding them were also seeing a lot of rot. So this whole area that then made the cover with that copper dome over the bell was just kind of getting slowly crushed down by this center rot. So what we had to do was take these belfry posts, hold them up, and then do our fixes and slide our bed timbers in. And we slid them in on top of these girts. So these girts normally would have just been one continuous girt here. But what happened is, as the rot found its way and water found its way, it rotted the tenon of this girt as it goes into the tower post. And essentially that 1.5 inch, 2-inch tenon was just dropping because, as you can tell, I mean, it just had so much weight on it. So as we introduced a new girt, we put a free tenon in that is pinned into here and then pinned into the main post. But the issue is that it's not as good as if it was a whole piece with a whole tenon. So we added this bolster underneath it to support it that then gets notched into our post. So it has a full support under here, but then with our joinery, we're able to connect them all, connect all the pieces, connect all the braces, get everything pinned and locked together, and this kind of adds any support for this bent timber as it's coming down. And we also had to do a nice fix on this piece where it, there was some kind of face rot that then into this post. So you can really see kind of the full story. But as we go around, we had to replace the bent timber on this side. The post on the other side, which also had, these braces, saw more rot than its accompanying posts that did not. That only, they were pretty fresh, but they also didn't have any mortises in. So it's, again, in our restoration, we didn't care about putting the mortises in because now we have this fresh copper roof that is not going to see any water. And so that's kind of the trade-off with a lot of these steeples is you try to do your best joinery possible to make it strong, but ultimately you have to do a good job of keeping up with your roof because the water loves to find mortises and it will stay there and rot, whereas a lot of the outsides will dry out in such a kind of sunny, blustery area. Yeah, and just to tour the rest of the building here, you can see it's a very nicely built post truss with these transverse girts kind of connecting everything. Continuous ties. The plates are interrupted, which means they are, you can see there are single pieces that go in between each bed post down there. And then the tie beam sits on top of that. Rafter gets engaged there, comes out, has this principal purlin that spans across to catch our common rafters. Square rule framed, as we, the timber framers are into the scribe rule, square rule, mill rule. This is a classic square rule frame. You can see the diminishing, let's just show that, about a great example of, this is the reference face. They just cleaned this up enough and then measured 7.5 over here to then make their notch to give space for the brace to hit. Another cool thing, actually, is if you can show the top of these king posts, Wes, is that they're wider at the top than the rest of the king post is. So they actually had to hew it in a way that then gave a little bit of a flare to the top, instead of what is almost more commonly done, where that rafter face is then notched in, but it actually flares out, and that dimension is wider than it is down here. So it's kind of a cool custom beam piece. All right, we want to go up top? I do.
Oh yeah. You want to grab it?
As you can see, this copper roof was done by the Heritage Company out of Waterboro, Maine. They are excellent. They're just the best. They have just done an incredible job preserving so many historic buildings. And yeah, it's pretty special to do all the work that we did, and then knowing that this is what's on top of it. And, I mean, pretty cool view. Lake view there. To the east, you can see Shawnee Peak in Bridgeton over there. You can, where the skiing is, and then the White Mountains to the west. Yeah, pretty special. And you know, one of my favorite things is the graffiti. All the people that have been up here over the years, carving their names proudly, and just enjoying the view, enjoying the moment.
Yeah, ring it.
She's got tone.